Well, here's what we are working on today. We're going to put a full set of fenders on this 900. I hope I didn't confuse everybody with the pictures that I had in the last video. That was from when we painted this several years ago. It had to be about 10 years ago. We painted the cab, frame, engine, polished the tanks, had the big 8-inch pipes on there, so on and so forth. But as you can see, time takes its toll on everything, along with the salt that we have on these roads, and the frame needed some work, so that's what we did. We had replaced the shocks on the rear axle a year or two ago. We're just putting the shocks on this front axle here now. We've got to get a few more bolts in this fifth wheel plate on this right hand side. Sarah's bolting up the shock on the left. And then we have a full set of fenders to put on. This had the half fenders. I don't know if they're half or quarter, but they covered the front wheel. And those work good. We could put the big tires on with that style fender. This fifth wheel is a little higher than the fifth wheel that's on the C5. The C5, we had the same style fender on there, but we had to keep it low enough because the fifth wheel isn't as high and it rubbed on the tires, and we had to bend the metal trim up a little bit, and they got a little wonky. We actually had to cut them off. We had to turn them into a quarter fender, but the trouble is it spit stuff all over the cab. So I bought this fender kit here from Byers back in the fall, and this was supposed to go on, this kit was supposed to go on the C5. However, it was going to take until like April to replace this fifth wheel riser. It was a fifth wheel, it was the whole, well, it wasn't this part, it was this part here. The fifth wheel is not that old on this truck or the C5, and it was just going to be taller. So it was this part, it was just going to be taller and allow us to have a little more clearance between the fender and the bottom of the trailer. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put the flotation tires on the truck. I'm not sure if these fenders are exactly going to work the way we want them, but we want to set the fender to those tires. We need to put the tires on, air the truck up, get it down off the jacks, get it at its actual ride height to see how much clearance we have or how much clearance we don't have. So I've got 4 flotation tires there. We're going to get the shock, both of them tight, get the rest of these bolts in. Sarah's got some of them in on this left-hand side, but she needed some help. And she's got to get this shock on there and get that tightened up. So we'll join up with you in a little while here once we get things situated to where we can start laying these fenders out. We did not want to put the bolts in when we were painting this. If you've ever used POR 15, you get it on the threads, you ain't getting the bolt apart. Well, you're going to get it apart, but it's going to take an impact to spin that nut all the way off of the bolt. So we will get after it here and join up with you in a little bit here once we start laying out the rest of this job. Right, Sarah? Yeah. That bottom one's always fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not really going on.
Not really going on. You got the shock down enough?
Yeah,
Or is it pinched into there? Oh, it's pinched in. Yeah.
Put it in.
Huh. Try it. All right, let me set this camera down. All right, so Sarah has the shocks installed. We've got all the bolts in on this fifth wheel plate. And we also have the tires mounted. Somebody left the key on while they were setting this truck up. I don't know who that was, but we're having to charge the batteries up so we can start the truck. What we want to do is we want to start this up, let the airbags fill, and let this get to its actual ride height. And then we can go ahead and install the fenders. Now I know what you're thinking. Do you know what they're thinking right about now?
Probably.
You do. We'll just give them a few minutes here to get to the keyboard. And they're typing right now. Can you hear them typing? Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. They can't figure out how to spell direction. They're backing up a little bit. Yes. We know the tires are on backwards. You know why I put them on backwards? I put them on just so I could get comments on how the tires are mounted backwards. They're a directional tire. I did it on purpose. They're only going to be on here while we are getting our fenders mounted. I'd rather not even put them on. Just put the regular tire on, air the truck up, mount the fender, and then I'm done. But I know it's going to happen. We're going to go to put these tires on, and we're going to be like, wow, boy, we could have put that fender a little higher. It wouldn't have quite rubbed the trailer, and we could have got that to work. Now, if this does not work, what we plan on doing, these fenders will come off easy. We'll just have to pull the fender off, put a set of half fenders on that will go on quick, and go that route. You really don't need anything covering the back set of wheels to keep the mud off the truck, but you really gotta have something at least up to about here so that you're not blowing out your back window. So once this starts, we'll get things set up here. And I would like to see these fenders work, but I don't know if they're gonna. They are the largest ones that I could get. I've had them for quite a while. You can see all the dust all over that top one there, but we're gonna go ahead and lay them out, get our framework laid out, and start this process here. You ready? Yeah. Well, we went ahead and got this one here mounted, and we have tried everything to get this to respond the way it should, but in order to get our clearance from underneath the trailer or the top of the fender, and then in order to have the clearance above the tire with the fender, we're just not quite there as far as being able to use this style fender on this tire. If we had maybe a 600 tire, it would fit better underneath this fender, but the standard tire, the height of the tire comes down to here, so we're going to be at least 2 inches lower than this one here. So we're going to have to pull the fender off, get these wheels off of there, and put the regular tires on, fit the fenders to the regular tires, and then we'll have to do something different for when we put these tires on. We'll just have to pull these fenders off and put the half fenders back on. It's unfortunate, but we might not be able to use these fenders at all. Jared uses them on the Mac with those other style tires, but those other tires are a little smaller than these here. So we will get the regular tires on and join back up with you once we get fitting up to the standard 11R 24.5. Well, we now have the street tires on, and what we'll go and do is we'll air up the suspension, get the ride height to be where it's going to ride, and then put these on accordingly. I'm gonna have to get something different to cover up those big tires. We really only need to cover up the front axle, the front drives. So let's get this job done. We might as well show you what the ruckus is about over here. They're putting a new fan motor. On this guy here, she leaked a little oil, and Jared's trying to dim up. These flashing lights here, these flashing lights are on there for when he's full. And we had a complaint from the complaint department, and he went ahead and dimmed him down a little bit. Been spraying a little black paint on there. So
Don't need to be able to see those.
we'll have to get this back out on the road and see how our complainer does. Right, Nathan? Oh, Timmy thought they were a little too bright,
They're pretty bright.
so he calmed them down a little
It
bit.
was the C5, so he was right on my ass.
Well, I see it, like
He was about this far away.
Yeah.
well,
Looking at it.
if it wasn't, if you could have a switch, so like when you're stopped and you're unloading, yeah, have them on.
Well,
Going down the road.
he's
they're on.
been looking into maybe eliminating the power that goes to those. So after it's been on for a minute, he should be out of the driveway by then. Then they won't be flashing, but we thought it would be good just to, because we're going a little slower, it adds a little hazard, a little warning
Yeah.
for the guys that like to trail on our ass.
Hey.
You turn the
Yeah.
flashers on when you go down and climb a hill, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Over in West
But
Quebec.
that's where they're perfect.
Yeah.
You know, when you're going really slow or really fast, you want people to get out.
So he's gonna try the paint on there, see how that does. If that doesn't do the trick. So that's what it was. That one's a little different. What's that one? Different up top on this right-hand side?
Yeah.
They're both different.
They're both different.
Those are nice and mellow.
So he's got his float gauge pulled up in the air so that it kind of mimics a full load. You could see from the left-hand side of the tanker when he's loading on the left side. He could see these from the rear. And then of course he's got the one on the right-hand side for when we load out on the right. Once the tank gets full, triggers the float, on comes the lights. It kind of rules out the problem of trying to load manure in the dark. You don't have to watch for bubbles and splashing. And a lot of guys, what they'll do is they'll just load the tanker, and then just as soon as a little bit comes over the side, they know they're full. And then they let this guy, I mean, when you see the noon tanker in the field, that's it. You got to get these on that big noon tanker too, Jared.
We're gonna put them on everything eventually. This is prototyping.
That's prototype one.
The new
Yeah.
tanker will be the easiest one. You what?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, all right. Well, we've got the front drive axle done. We got to go back and do the rear axle now. This front axle, all we had to do was just ream out this hole that was already in the frame on the front. On the back, we used one of the holes that were already there. And I don't know what we're going to be able to do on the back here. I think I probably have to take this bolt here out, or I might have to ream that one. I'm not quite sure. Looks like we're going to use probably, if I was to guess, maybe this bolt right here. I'm thinking, because it's about, well, it's about the same distance away from the tire as this front one is. So we'll go ahead and yeah, looks like probably this one here. So we'll go ahead and get them bolts out, get our brackets on there, and try to get this back axle done to look just like the front one here. Get her pounded in there. Kind of a hard spot, huh? You're all thumbs, ain't you, with that hammer in that one particular area? Yeah, okay. Let's get the back set up here. Well, we've got this just about finished up. We just got done screwing around with a couple of other things on this truck that I wasn't really anticipating on. We got the fenders here done, and I noticed that this U-bolt on this right-hand side, well, not the U-bolt, but I noticed that, well, it was the U-bolts. It was everything on this spring pack on this right-hand side was a little cockeyed. And the more I looked at it, it looked like this axle was shifted forward, and it was. Now, we put springs in this. I thought it was last winter, but Jared had to correct me, and it was 2 years ago. We put a set of springs in it, and I think we put, what did we do, Jared? One broke, and we put one in last year.
Yeah, we put this side in last year.
Yeah, so the springs we put in it broke. And what usually causes that is all the horsepower. It lifts up this left side, and a spring will actually break easier by not having a load on it. They're meant to have pressure pushing down on them in one direction. If you bend a spring in its opposite direction, it'll break. And that's what we had go wrong with this left side. So at any rate, what I'm getting at is I went to take the U-bolts off to loosen the suspension up so that I could walk that axle beam back, or yeah, axle beam, and I couldn't get, it would not loosen. Washers were turning, but it wouldn't loosen, so we had to cut them. Sarah went a little while ago and got 4 new U-bolts. We took it apart, and what there is a spacer block, and it's got to have a peg on it. The one on the top is the same as the one on the bottom on this 900. And I had to order 2 new blocks, but I swapped the one from the top and to get it to work for now. So it's unfortunate that there wasn't the parts in, but I should finish. It's unfortunate that we weren't able to get the fenders to work with the flotation tires. But before we get into talking about that, we can run this the way it is, but I need to get them new spacer blocks put in the bottom with the peg on there. What had happened is it sheared that peg off, and then it allowed the axle to wander. So one thing, actually a couple things that I have left to do to this is I have to, or I want to, spray the inner frame rail with fluid film. Now we use black fluid film, so we don't necessarily want to get it on the outside of the frame right now, but we're going to douche the inside of that frame rail on both sides with fluid film. We're going to do that here in the morning. What I do need to do is I need to get plates on this truck. So we've had this truck for quite a while, and we have not had plates on this. So we've got a new set of plates to put on here, and we're going to be all legal like. So with that being said, we'll join up with you in the morning. We'll get the fluid film on there, get it backed outside, let the sun shine on it a little bit, and that'll give you a better look at what it looks like. Now it doesn't look nowhere near as good as it looked back when I painted this several years ago, but at least it's good to go now. So we'll join up with you in the morning. I'm sure some of you are going to want to see the fluid film getting sprayed on there, and then that'll do the final fit up to what we have going on here. So we'll join up with you in the morning.